Alright, what's going on, guys? Try back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my weekly review for this week's episode of The Walking Dead Season 4. This week we got to see The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 13, which was called Alone. Okay, and as always, my video reviews do contain spoilers for The Walking Dead, so for those of you who have not seen the episode yet, you may want to watch it before watching this video. That said, we didn't have any actual character deaths this week, or, well, not really, but basically close to one, kind of, so spoilers. So, of course, the biggest thing about the episode, well, two things really. The first is, of course, that you have almost every group now heading in the direction of this Terminus Sanctuary type thing, which we don't really know exactly what it is yet. We don't know if it is a trap. We don't know if it is legit or what the case may be with that. We really have no idea. And then in addition, so Glenn, Maggie's group, they're on their way there. And then in addition to that, the most exciting part of the episode, at least for me anyway, is, of course, when Beth is kidnapped, which was really exciting to see and really strange. Of course, at the end of the episode, you have Daryl who meets up with the group that Rick ran into at that house he was staying at when they were, going through it, that type of thing. And it's basically a group of guys. There is Jeff Kober, who was credited in the intro, I noticed, at the beginning of the episode, which was different because people had... online people were kind of predicting that he would be a character that would be used more because he's a pretty big actor for a TV series. He's been in a lot of different shows, a lot of different movies and stuff like that. He's got a lot of acting chops. So a lot of people were predicting that they're not going to bring in somebody like that just for like maybe like a background type role. He's going to have some kind of big role in the series, and it looks like he will, of course, as playing Joe, the leader of this little group. People are calling them the Bandits online. I don't know exactly what their name would be or what you would want to refer to them as, but they're the guys who basically you had Rick hiding under the bed. Rick kills one of them, and they're all kind of fighting amongst themselves, and they're kind of rowdy. They don't really get along too well. It almost seems like a group full of Daryls. Kind of. I mean, Daryl's nice too, but these guys, I don't know. It's like it's like a group full of just badass dudes that don't get along very well, don't seem to follow direction really well. You got the guy with the bow, not a crossbow, but a regular bow behind Daryl, who's saying that he calls the vest. But it looks like the leader of the group is interested in Daryl because he's got his crossbow, and they come across him. He's just like sitting there in the middle of the road, right? So it's kind of intriguing to say, like, who is this guy? He looks like one of us. He looks like he'd fit right in. So rather than let's just kill him and take what he's got, he probably doesn't have much of anything really, because didn't they drop their supplies back there, and he was running to try to catch up, to Beth and the car that she was taken in. And he doesn't really have all that much right now. Like, what are they going to get from him? So it seems to me like he'll probably allow him to join. And of course, they wouldn't want to kill off Daryl that kind of way, I wouldn't think. So we'll see what happens with that. That looks pretty interesting. Some people have also sort of predicted that maybe that group is part of Negan's Saviors or something, and Daryl will join that group to later become a comic book character from the Walking Dead comic book series called Dwight, who basically will be sort of on the wrong side later on when things happen between Rick and this other group, Rick's group and another group, when they kind of go to war, so to speak. So that'd be kind of interesting for them to do if Daryl was to join sort of like another group, kind of like a Merle type situation, sort of. Possible for the future, but that's kind of a topic for another video. But anyway, just for the review, in terms of my comments on this for the review, we did see the guy who went unconscious. He did wake back up, so he's not dead. The guy who Rick saw under the bed, he's there. I don't know his name, though. I don't think they've given him one yet. And although I think it is on IMDb, but I don't know if that's official or not. But anyway, yeah, so I'm really interested to see what happens with that and whether or not Daryl is going to be able to try to go and find Beth. I mean, like, what's he going to do? They had a car. Whoever took her And she could be anywhere right now. I have no idea, right? Daryl has no wheels, doesn't have his bike or anything. And I mean, you can track footsteps, but you can't really track a car, you know? They couldn't find the governor. So, wow. So that right there is probably the biggest development is between Beth and Daryl. They're a little, pair. And what's going to happen with them going forward, what's going to happen to Beth. So really interesting stuff. Didn't see that coming. I predicted that I thought she was going to bite the bullet, but I didn't think she would be kidnapped, which she could be sort of filling the role from the comic book series if they go down the same direction of Dale, who gets kidnapped by the hunters. And basically, well, I don't want to ruin anything, but some things happen after. So that's really exciting. You kind of see in the promo, I think we saw her hands. She's being kept somewhere, that type of thing. So that'll be really exciting to see what happens with that before the end of the season, that's for sure. So that said, really just, man, can't wait to see what happens with Daryl and Beth. And that was really weird. The whole sequence with them this episode was really strange. They come across the house, which is like it was like a funeral home type thing, or at least there was people that had, like dead people that had makeup done to them inside the house. The house is spotless. Daryl keeps mentioning that someone's been cleaning it or keeping it up. There's food there ready for them, like pop and some other things, and there's like no dust at all. Really strange. Then, of course, the dog comes up to the door. It's like, what? It's a dog. He's got like the one eye, and then the hair is just covering him. It's really, really bizarre. It's almost as if like they're trying to hint at that this was all some kind of like set up spot for the hunters to kind of capture people. To use the dog to lure in walkers to the door, and then when people run out or whatever the case may be, then they kind of come in and grab people or that type of thing. Lure them in with some food, that kind of stuff, leave it there for them. When they go to get it, then they capture the people and take them. So, wow. So that's pretty crazy. And I think that's kind of confirmation that the other group that Rick ran into was not the hunters, which I was kind of curious as to whether or not it was them. I did some videos kind of talking about that, whether or not the group that Rick ran into was the hunters. And at this point, I would have to say no, not really, because if you think about it, they weren't in the car that took Beth. They weren't there, and if she was taken by them, then it would make perfect sense. At least I would think so. Man, lots of interesting stuff to talk about with regards to those two. But just for the sake of the review, so we can go over everything else, loved all that stuff. Was really excited to see, really interested to see what happens with them coming forward. And going to be talking more about that in the predictions video, which will be posted tomorrow. So look out for that. Anyway, so that was all really, really weird and really suspicious how it was all clean and everything, the dog and how the walkers came right up. Some badass scenes there with Daryl as he gets trapped with all the walkers, and he pulls the table against himself so they can't get close enough to him, and then he starts using the tools on him to kill him, crawls underneath and uses the other one, and then is able to get out of there. So that was really exciting. And I mean, he's such a badass character, such a force to be reckoned with. I don't think there's a lot of characters that could have gotten through that. Maybe Tyrese, maybe Michonne. Aside from that, I think everybody else would pretty much be dead for the most part. I don't think so. Well, Rick too. Rick could probably get through it too. But yeah, definitely not an easy thing to survive. That's for sure. Okay, so that was all good. Really enjoyed all of that. The tombstone thing, the holding hands thing, the scene right before it. Even though I did a video talking about the possibility of a relationship between Daryl and Beth, and I kind of talked about how I didn't really like it, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of liked how they did it this episode where, they're kind of talking about how good people, there may still be some good people out there, which is kind of funny considering what happened right afterwards. But, it was just a good scene at the end there when she's asking what, and he's just kind of looking at her, and then she's like, oh, it was, I liked it. I got to admit, it was well done. I liked it. I liked the writing. I liked how he's laying down in the bed because it's comfortable and actually asking her to play the piano and sing. So that was good. I liked all of it. I thought it was all really well done this episode, and I really enjoyed it. Versus some of the things in Still last week. You guys saw my review on that. You know how I feel about that. But yeah, I really liked how they handled the two of them this week, and it was great. It was a nice payoff. after still, because we got to spend so much time with them, and now we get to see what happens afterwards eventually to the pair and how they get split up. So really exciting. Can't wait to see what happens with that. Move on from that. So the other main group, of course, that we follow, and we're kind of cutting back and forth, that type of thing, is Bob, Maggie, and Sasha. So we have the before the credits scene, which I loved. I love when they do this, man. I wish they would have done this more in the past, where we kind of get to see a scene with a character before the credits roll, the intro, of a different time. So out of chronological order. So how Daryl found Bob to begin with. As Sasha says, before Daryl found you, you're on your own. So, man, I really liked how they kind of showed us that, what it was like for him, just being by himself. He's not clean shaven. He's just kind of, wandering around. He's sleeping on top of this truck. He doesn't really care to kill walkers. He more wants to avoid them. He's just kind of, lackadaisical. He's just kind of like, walking around, and then he sees people, and they ask him the 3 questions, Rick's 3 questions of how many, I think it's how many walkers have you killed, how many people have you killed, and then why, right? So I really like that scene. That was a great intro to kind of give us some feeling for that character, and I think that Bob, out of all the new characters for season 4, I think Bob is my favorite. Granted, most of the rest are dead anyway, but Lizzie and Mika are new characters as well. I'm not a big fan of Lizzie, but Bob, I like a lot. And then, of course, a lot of other characters getting a lot more time. So I really enjoyed all the stuff with him this episode and his outlook on things. And the title alone is profound for this episode. The name of the episode is Alone. And, it had so many meanings. In my predictions video, I was predicting that Daryl would be alone and, or if Beth died. But there was the word alone refers to so many things about it. You have, of course, the 3 of them split up completely and are all alone at one point. You have the concentration on Bob and what it was like for him when he was completely alone. And Beth was alone too. And, you just kind of get sort of some examples of how lonely everything can be when you're completely by yourself like that on your own in a zombie apocalypse, and how difficult it is to survive. You had Maggie getting in trouble right away, and without Sasha being there to help her out, she may have died. So really good stuff. So a great character is Bob, and also of course Sasha's okay. So I kind of talked about my Beth spotlight video the other day how I don't really like weaker characters. But I don't particularly like Sasha either. She's a strong female character, but I don't know. she's kind of Miss Bossy Boots. It's her way or the highway. Her and Bob separating. It's kind of stupid because it's like, why don't you just go and see this thing through with Maggie first? And then if you want to set up the high ground later, which is smart, don't get me wrong, that's smart to set up a place to stay in a building or whatever the case may be. Why don't you do that after you've saw this thing through? Even though she may not necessarily want to go to the terminus because she thinks it's a trap basically, and she may be right. We'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Sasha. She's okay. I guess I'll say she's all right. And I did like how they kind of handled her this episode. It feels very natural compared to what we've known of her so far, that she would behave in the way she has all the way through. So that's been pretty organic. I have liked the way they handled her. In regards to Maggie, I liked the zombie kills she had. I liked the whole, she's got like the sign and she's like killing walkers with the sign and writing in blood, the message for Glenn. And then of course at the end of the episode, we see Glenn and he sees the sign to go to the terminus. So that's basically everybody headed in the same direction, aside from Daryl, who we don't know, and Beth, who we don't know where the hell they're going. Like, what's going to happen with them? Is Beth going to just be killed? Is she going to survive the whole thing? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but that will be probably the most exciting thing, and what will happen with Daryl too. I imagine they're not going to kill Daryl. I wouldn't think so. So, plus he fits in just perfect with those guys, so I'm sure they'll allow him to kind of come on board, and then we'll see what will happen with them afterwards. Be interesting if he kind of forced to join them, and then afterwards if they run into Rick, because the one guy under the bed did see Rick, may or may not remember him because he was losing consciousness, but then they know afterwards that the other guy was killed by by somebody, and they may even think it could have been Daryl. Who knows? I mean, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But if he sees Rick at some point in time during the series, you got to think that if he remembers that, he's going to know that he killed the other guy, and then we could have some kind of rivalry building between those two groups later on. So good stuff. In terms of the review, I liked the episode a lot. Thought it was great overall. The intro was great. It was directed by Ernest Dickerson, who I think is probably the best director for The Walking Dead. He's directed Too Far Gone. He's directed a lot of the premieres, finales, things like that. I think he was also working on Dexter, somebody said. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's a great director, man. He's directed some of the best episodes there are. And, just kind of a lot of examples or kind of showing what it's like being alone in a zombie apocalypse. So that was cool. I liked all that stuff about being alone and everything that happened. So predictions video, as always, will be up tomorrow. I don't really have much more to say aside from that. I mean, there was a lot of things in the episode, but I try to, go as in-depth as I can and cover as many things as I can. But there's always going to be things that I don't touch on here or there. But I think that's pretty good in terms of an overall review. Zombie Kill of the Week. It's kind of a tough one. I may have to go with Maggie with the sign, the one that she chops the zombie's head off with the sign. Although it may still technically be alive, at least the head may, and the mouth may still be going, depending. But that's what I'll go for that one. So let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode. It was really good. It wasn't as fast as some of the earlier episodes, It's kind of a slower. This half of the season, we've had a lot of kind of like slower episodes where we only concentrate on a few characters, which I don't mind for episodes like this where we get to see some great development from Bob and from the other characters and new developments with Daryl and Beth. So I really liked it a lot. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Thought it was a great episode. And that's pretty much all I got to say. So we got 3 left for the season, only 3 left. It's a damn shame, but 16 episodes is quite a bit. And I think that even though they're doing a lot of episodes, they're still producing really good quality with a lot of things happening and enough zombie action, enough new developments to keep us all really entertained, or at least most of us. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Like I said, predictions video will be up tomorrow, so I'll post that. And if you guys have any video suggestions for topics you want me to talk about this week for the daily Dead videos, let me know, and I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev saying peace.